Welcome. So today I'll be introducing you to foods and nutrition. Now, by the end of this class, you should be able to define the following. You should be able to define food, nutrition, foods and nutrition. You'll also be able to explain the importance of food to the body, and then also outline the different classes of food. Now, what is food? You know, food has always been man's paramount occupation right from the early days. Man has always been in search for food. You know, it was more like the preoccupation of mankind. Now, the purpose of food is to keep us alive. We eat food so that we can be alive. So we can have the energy to do a lot of things we want to do. So up until this day, man is still in the search for food. All that we're looking for, all that we do every day is to meet ends meet so we can eat and be healthy and to go on for the day's activity. Now, what is food? Food is that which nourishes the body. Food should nourish you when you eat. It is any substance which after consumption, digestion and absorption by the body produces energy, promotes growth, and repairs tissue and regulates all the body processes. Now, food should be able to do all of this for it to be called food. It must nourish you. It must produce energy when it is being digested, and also it should do what? Promote growth and repair tissues, and generally it should regulate all the body processes. Now, what is nutrition? This is the study of how your body uses the food that you eat. For every food you eat, nutrition sees that every food you eat makes every one of these food have their impact felt in the body. When you take your carbohydrate foods, when you take your protein foods, your fats, and oil, your vitamins, nutrition sees to read that it uses the food you've eaten to see that the general well-being of the body is achieved. Now, foods and nutrition. When you talk about food and nutrition, what does it have to do with what we eat? Now, foods and nutrition is the study that deals with the science of food and its relation to health. Don't forget, we are what we eat. So whatever you eat should be considerate to your health. So foods and nutrition is that study that deals with the food that you eat and its relation to your health. So you have the pyramid, you know, from fats and oil, meat, fish, and your alternative source such cheese and all of this. It helps you to know why and how you should eat them. So that's what foods and nutrition does. It helps us to study, to know the science behind every food and how they relate or affect our health, either positively or negatively. Now, there are some related terms that are associated with foods and nutrition. You hear words such as malnutrition. Now, what is malnutrition? This is when nutrients are not consumed in their correct proportion as required by the body. When you do not consume the right amount of nutrients required by the body, you are said to be malnourished. Now, we have malnourishment is classified into two groups, which is the undernutrition and overnutrition. For the undernutrition, this is when insufficient nutrient is consumed. And this can happen when you do not take enough protein. It can result to kwashiorkor. And also when you do not take enough of zinc, it could result to anemia. And also for our overnutrition, this is when excess nutrient is consumed. You know, like the saying goes, there should be moderation in everything we do. When you take excess of the nutrients, it also has ill effects on the body as well. So overnutrition is when excess of these nutrients are consumed. Let's say, for instance, when vitamin A and D is consumed in an excess form, it could result to an ill effect known as hypervitaminosis, which is not good for the body as well. So we should always be moderate when it comes to our nutrition. Now, there's the impact of nutrition on human health. As we can see here, we have low mood. When you are malnourished, you have low mood. You won't be active as such. And weight loss, you would drastically lose weight. because you are not eating what you're supposed to eat. You're not getting the right nutrients from the food, so you would actually come down. And low energy, you won't have energy. Energy is the ability to do work. So if you don't eat properly and you do not eat the right food, not just eating and obtaining the right nutrients, you'll not be able to have the energy to do work. And also muscle wasting. And this happens most times when people are ill and then they do not get to walk around and do a lot of exercise. They just sit back. There's this process of what their muscles been wasting. Another thing is increased risk of fractures. This happens when there is no enough nutrition as well. Every part of your body becomes weak. So you are at risk of fractures. A little fall, you would have a friction. Anything that happens with you that, that moves or shakes you a little bit could cause to fractions that shouldn't be if you are well nourished. Another one is increased risk of hospital admissions. It happens mostly for children when they are malnourished. You see them, you're always in and out of the hospital because they are not getting the right food. Now, for every illness, they have their root causes in what we eat. They have their root causes in nutrition. So when you don't eat the right food, you would likely visit the doctor frequently. And confusion too is another impact of malnutrition. You can get confused. Like the saying goes, when you don't eat enough, sugar doesn't go to the brain. So you get confused and then you won't know what to do with yourself. Another impact of malnutrition is that you are prone to infections. You're so prone to infections that you can be infected by anything, because you do not have the capability for your body system to fight against infections. Another thing is that it reduces your independence. You want to be reliable because you're malnourished, sometimes to even be assisted. Another impact of malnutrition is that increased risks of fall, just as we had in the increased risks of fractions. Now, increased risks of falls. For every little move, someone just touches you a bit and then you're on the ground because you are malnourished. Another impact of malnutrition is reduced mobility. Reduced mobility. This happens when some persons are actually ill. They are not moving. There's no enough activity. So, and then you're not even eating the right food. It can also impair the nutrients in your body and reduce the mobility as well. Now, another term that is associated with foods and nutrition is anti-nutrients. These are substances that prevent the effective utilization of nutrients. They do not allow the nutrients you consume to actually work in your body. They are referred to as anti-nutrients. They don't allow the nutrients work. They make them not perform or carry out what they're supposed to carry out in the body. Now, another term used mostly when foods and nutrition is involved is balanced diet. I'm sure most of us know about balanced diet. We say it a lot, but do we practice balanced diet? Do we actually take balanced diet? Now, this is a diet that contains all the nutrients in their right proportion. Balanced diet is the diet that contains all the nutrients in their right proportion. So as you eat, you make sure that every nutrient is well represented in your diet. It's not to take eba in the morning, or you take bread and tea. In the afternoon, you're taking eba and whatever. And then in the evening, you're still taking pap or whatever. You try as much as to balance your diet, to inculcate all the various nutrients by bringing in fruits, vegetables, and a lot of fiber foods to help balance the diet as well. Now, another term associated with foods and nutrition is deficiency diseases. Now, this is a disorder resulting from incorrect or lack or intake of the required nutrients. Deficiency disease. When you do not take the incorrect or you lack the intake of the required nutrients, you're said to be deficient in nutrition. So deficiency disease is that results when you don't take the correct, or you lack few of the required nutrients that is needed by the body. Now let's move on to food habits. Food habits. Now let's just say this is the attitude of individuals towards eating habits. That's the why and how people eat. Now there is a lot of people that have food habits. Now, ranging from, it could be religious, ethnical, and so on, sociocultural. It cuts across every part. Now, why do people eat food and how do they eat food? Let's give an instance of someone, a family. They tell you, every evening we take eba and soup. It's more like a tradition. It's a food habit that has been practiced long way, and you find adults still practicing it. Like every evening we must take eba. And then how people eat. Now, another factor is how do they eat? For some people, eating and licking the finger is kind of a normal thing for them. It's a food habit that is practiced and well accepted. While some, it's disgusting to see you eat and you're licking all your fingers. So these are the reasons, the why and how, why people eat. These are the habits associated when people eat food. Now, let's look at the importance of human nutrition. Why is human nutrition important? Nutrition is very necessary for human health. It is very necessary for human health. Don't forget, we are what we eat. We are what we eat. Now, according to World Health Organization, WHO, they say better nutrition is related to improved infant, child, and maternal health, stronger immune systems, lower risks of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, and also longevity. When you have better nutrition, when you eat right, your immune system is strong to guard you against all sorts of infections, flus that can just come up, and then you're so prone, everything that comes up, you must be affected. Remember the COVID-19 period as well. They tell you try and build your immune system so you don't get infected. It is very, very true. If you do not eat the right food and guard your immune system, you will be prone to all sorts of diseases and sicknesses. And also, when you eat or take better nutrition, you lower the risks of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. When someone is diabetic, what the person would have done by taking a lot of sugar or fatty carbohydrate foods, it resulting to excess or too much sugar in the body. So you can actually avoid all of this if you practice better nutrition for yourself. And also, the last one is that longevity. You tend to live long and healthy because you are conscious of what you eat. And don't forget again, you are what you eat. Now let's look at the classification of food. Now, food can be classified based on the macronutrients and micronutrients. Now, macronutrients are those nutrients that are needed in fairly large quantity by the body. You need them in large quantity in your body, such as water, fiber, fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. You need them. Now, our body, contains 2/3 of water, so you need a lot of water. You need to drink enough water and take fiber foods, for mildization for the body. And also fats, you take is needed in the body in large quantity as well. Then proteins and carbohydrates is also needed in large quantity by the body. Then why micronutrients are those nutrients that are not fairly needed. They're not largely needed in the body. They need to be consumed in fewer quantity. You don't need to take too much of them. You just take them in bits. And these nutrients are your vitamins and minerals. You don't take them so much, but you need them, but you don't need them a lot, just as you need these other macronutrients. That's why they are called micro, while the other one is referred to as macro. That means the big and then the smaller nutrients. Now, we have factors affecting foods and nutrition. Factors affecting foods and nutrition. We have the BMR, that's the basal metabolic rate. Here, this is a state whereby the body is relaxed, the energy level that results from that state. This could affect nutrition because at that point you're not getting the right requirement that the body needs. And also the weight affects weight affects food and nutrition as well. It's a factor that affects food and nutrition. How does weight affect food and nutrition? Everybody's weight is not the same thing. So when you're not eating right as it regards your weight, it's also a factor that affects food and nutrition. Another factor is age. As we grow older, we tend to waste muscles or lack one or two factors. We need to actually improve on what we eat. The food that we might be eating might not be giving us a lot of these nutrients, so we need to inculcate them into our diet. Now, for those persons that are aged, you need to inculcate supplementary nutrients into your food, adding to what we take, because you might not really be getting enough of these nutrients from the daily food we eat as well. And also the food we eat for younger children, they need to take more of the protein and carbohydrate foods to help them with their growth, because they are still growing. For the aged and elderly, they are not growing anymore, they're already advanced, so they just need to complement their diet. Now, sex in regards to gender is another factor that affects food and nutrition. Every body functions differently when it comes to gender, male and female. Now, for the male, they are kind of involved in a lot of activities. So it makes them very active, hyperactive. So they need a lot of food that should help complement those lost nutrients in the course of their activity. Now, for the ladies or the young girls, as they approach adolescence, they tend to menstruate. So they need foods that are rich in zinc and calcium. Now, another factor that affects food and nutrition is the climate and environment. Now, today, we have climate change. And then, we get most of our nutrients from plants. Now, when the foods are corrupted due to climate change, what happens? As we take them, they do not work, or they do not perform that which is expected from these plants, and they don't give us what the body needs to function, because they have already been infected by climatic effects. And also the environment. We are in the midst of industries whereby chemicals are being used, and some of the chemicals that are used for our plants as well affect or damage the nutrients that are supposed to be gotten from these foods. So climate and the environment also affects foods and nutrition. Now, physical activities. Food helps us to achieve that. When we eat food, we have the ability to do work, we have the energy to do a lot of things. Physical activities, we're able to do one or two things. But if you're involved in a lot of physical activities and you're not taking the right nutrients, you're not eating the right food, you're only doing more harm than good to yourself. Because as you're working, as you're exercising, you're doing a lot of physical activities, you must make sure that you balance up your diet. You must make sure that you eat the right food so as to help you gain back all that you have lost in the process of being involved in other physical activities. Now, another factor is the socio-economical factors. This happens when, you don't have enough money to even take care of yourself, not to talk of now buying or taking foods that would help you stay fit. Now, the socioeconomic factor affects or cuts across most individuals, because you don't even have the money to buy healthy foods, not to even visit hospitals to, health sectors to see or to know what is happening with you. So socioeconomic factors affects foods and nutrition as well. Another factor that affects foods and nutrition is food fats. They'll tell you this food, you want to calm down, you need to cut down on this food, you need to cut down on this, don't take too much of this, don't take too much of that, and they restrict you from taking some other nutrients that would have been beneficial for the body. food fats. Let's say someone wants to calm down. She's trying to cut down on her fat intake, and they say no, you don't take carbohydrates, don't take protein, so you can actually balance up. Meanwhile, some of these foods that they are telling you to cut off would actually be beneficial to the health. So these are food fats, or they tell you follow this process, you're going to gain more weight, keep taking this food, you're going to add more weight, or keep following this process, keep do away with some of these foods, you're going to calm down, or you're going to add weight. All these are food fats. It affects foods and nutrition as well. Another factor that affects food and nutrition is religion. Religion is one factor that affects food and nutrition. Religion differs. Okay, let's say for instance, Christianity, there are some days when they tell you we don't eat meat, because of mostly during the Easter period, they don't eat meat. And some religious too don't take, some religious belief don't allow them take some food that is healthy for the body. They tell you our religion does not permit this, making the individuals to lack these nutrients or vitamins that are important to aid growth for each one of them. But because of the religion, they do not comprehend. Another factor that affects food and nutrition is the cooking practices. And this can be related to cooking methods. Now, cooking does a lot of things for us. It improves texture, it improves the flavor of food, but when food is not cooked in the right way, you can destroy the nutrients in the process of cooking it. So cooking practice is one factor that affects food and nutrition. Now, we have different types of cooking methods. Now, every food should not be cooked the same way you cook one food. Let's say you're cooking rice one way and then you want to cook beans the other way. We have different cooking methods such as steaming, boiling, stewing, frying, a whole lot of these methods. So, cooking practice is very important. Like for your vegetables, you don't overcook your vegetables. You can blanch them and start using them, so you don't kill the nutrients that should be gotten from these vegetables. So that's one factor. You need to know how to cook and the different methods that is applied to cooking these different foods when you want to eat them. Another thing is the lifestyle and food habits, that it also affects foods and nutrition. The lifestyle and food habits. People, like we said earlier, food habits, this is the why and how people eat food. The lifestyle, some persons are really nonchalant about what they eat. They are carefree. They don't really take cognizance of what they should eat. So food habit, anything goes for them. For the fact it's food, they will just pick it and then they eat. So anything should not go for you when it comes to food. Your lifestyle and food habits should be top notch. You shouldn't just pick anything and eat randomly, because it will affect your nutrition.